and I really think it makes a difference. What really makes a difference is sharing your work. And I know a lot of artists, sharing your work. Okay. A lot of artists wonder why they paint. Why are you doing this? Is there any purpose? Is there any reason? Why do you have to spend all this time doing something that's so difficult to do to begin with? And after a while, when do you stop? And art is one of those things that you do, and you do it all the time. And you can't look at all the paintings that are packed up in your closets and under your bed and in your garage. If you do that and you have run out of wall space, you really lose the reason why you're painting in the first place. You're not painting because you need paintings, you know. In fact, if you are, let me just give you a little word of advice. It's a lot cheaper just to bypass all that and buy some of mine. When you figure out how much you spend on art and paints and classes and all of the things you do in framing, it would be cheaper to buy other people's paintings. So you really can't say that's why you're here. So you have to ask yourself, so why are you here? And there's a couple of questions. You could say, well, why am I here? And I could be actually like at the senior center taking lessons there. Why are you specifically here? Well, you could learn some stuff at the senior center, and that's really a good place to be. And painting is one of those things that you can be passive about. You can have, for some of you, even in this class, you put your paints into the car, you drive to class, you paint, put your paints back into the car, and you drive home. And for an entire week, your paints are in your car. And you don't take them out till the next time you go to class. When we do the homework assignments, that does give you a reason to actually take the paints out of the car and maybe do something at home. And for some of you, you have both your car paints and your home paints, okay? Because you got sick and tired of hauling everything in back and forth. So you have a studio, and then you have your portable studio, which is your classroom stuff. The reason why we do this thing is because it is interesting for us. It wakes us up in the morning, and it gives us a purpose and a reason. And it is challenging. There is nothing that is more challenging than to actually get good at this. It is the reason why it's survived for thousands of years. There are people that create, and there are people that watch television. And people who create are fascinated with the creating of something. It's a very valuable thing. Now, for some of you, this is the 5th or 6th time around in learning something. Some of you have taken knitting classes, some of you have taken crochet classes, some of you have taken piano classes. So for some of you, this is just another one of those classes. But why is it that painting sticks? Is because in these other classes, you can reach a certain level, and then you're pretty much on your own. With painting, once you actually master something, then all of a sudden it becomes really broad. You have not only just what you've mastered, but now you have a choice of all kinds of different opportunities. You can go into florals, portraits, you can go into watercolor, you can go into this and that. It opens up the avenue for a tremendous amount of creativity. And so there's an endless supply of possibility for you if you take on painting. And so that's one reason why it does pique our interest. Second, it improves our life. The sheer act of painting improves our day-to-day life. And so now we wander around and we're awake. And we notice the sun, and we notice the shadows. And we are the ones responsible to nudge our husbands or wives and go, hey, look at that sunset, when they're busy off looking down the road. We're the ones that actually are in tune with what's going on. And when something's a beautiful color, like a rose or a sunset, we go, how do you make that color? You know, it's like there's that interesting thing that we have. Not only do we enjoy it, but we always ask ourselves, how do we achieve that? So it really makes our day-to-day life more interesting. But then it comes to a point where now your life is interesting and you have a whole bunch of paintings sitting around in your garage. Okay? The next thing that's really important to become an artist is sharing your work and participating in ways to actually share your work with other people and to get involved with shows. And we talked about doing that, and we are putting together shows, and we've talked about our show. But there are a lot of shows that are around that give you an opportunity to show your work. And it's interesting when you show your work and you get feedback, or even if you show your work and you walk into an environment where works are being showed and one of them is your painting, you look at it objectively. You can actually stand back and look at your work and see how your work looks with other work. Not whether or not it's better or worse, but whether or not it stands up to being worthy of painting. Now sometimes you will participate in a show and you'll step back and you'll see all of these really valuable contributions of views of life, and you all of a sudden look at your work and you go, you know, not quite a contribution. You know, it's not quite what you necessarily would would stand up or what. And oftentimes you can be really brutally honest with you, and you can start saying to yourself, you know, I think I need to sharpen my edge a little bit. I think I need to try a little harder. I think I need to put more light into it. I think I need to take it up a level. And I've heard from some people in shows that they said when it was time to actually see their work compared to other pieces, only then did they actually see what was missing in their work. Okay? Now you're in a classroom, and we do have fabulous paintings that come out here. But you kind of get used to them coming in and out of class. So it's not like in your face. You know, like you just feel like it's just a compadre. We're just enjoying painting together. But when you actually put them up on the wall and compare, you actually go, you know, I could get a little more light on them. I can try a little harder. I can put a little more detail. Maybe I'll put in an hour or two more into my painting so it's a little more finished like the other pieces there. So it actually will tune you up a little bit. You know, when you take piano lessons, oftentimes a good piano teacher has the yearly recital. And there was only one reason why you do the yearly recital is so that you have some kind of goal to work towards. And in that recital, you know that somebody's going to hear your work, and you don't want to be the one that makes the mistake, right? So you try really hard to make sure you're paying attention so that you're not the one that looks bad on stage. And that's just kind of how we are. You know, we all have big egos. All of you in here have egos. Huge egos. Every one of you. How do I know that? Because there's not a person in here that didn't take some time and took a shower this morning or yesterday. All of you seem to have, except Sherry, she never showers.
Did you hear that?
All of you bothered to put on clothes. You didn't show up in pajamas or naked. All of you, you know, there's a presentation there. If you really didn't have an ego, you really wouldn't care about what you'd look like. So you have to acknowledge the fact that you do have an ego. We do care how we actually look, dress, and how we appear to others. So that's the common ego. Now we have egos because we want to look good in our fear of looking bad. You know, a lot of people never take up a brush because they're so afraid that the work that they're going to create is going to make them look stupid or bad. And that's a conversation that actually goes back to when you were a little child. The fear of being judged. And a lot of you do not enter into competitions because you're fearful of what somebody might think of your work. A lot of you have entered competitions even lately and have been denied or not allowed in. And you make that mean something. And in essence, a lot of times all it means is that you sent in a flower and they have 5 flowers already, they're looking for a building. But we think our painting didn't measure up to what the judge wants. Or a lot of times a judge is a watercolorist and you presented an oil painting. There's a lot of prejudice in painting. There's a huge prejudice in oil painting and watercolors, and in abstract, in realism. Okay, and a lot of times they go, well, I'm an abstract realist, semi-portrait expressionist. They try to cover all of the genres, right? But if you have somebody who's been schooled in abstract, they've been kind of taught for 30 years that representational work has no value. And if you've been schooled in representational work, you look at abstract as being, right now, passé. You know, that's something that they did in, it's like so 70s, right? Oh, that's an 80s painting. Yeah, and the thing is, what's great about abstract, you could see 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, it's like they went through all these genres. It's like, how far can they actually go? Well, they've gone so far that now they're going back into representational work, which is really great. So you guys are actually on the inside track as far as that's concerned. But a lot of the judges that are judging your shows got their degrees in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where they were taught abstract expressionism was everything. Now, periodically, like in this particular show, we had an abstract representational artist there. And she crossed the board and went into representational work and gave out ribbons. And she was very, very good. She was very professional. So it was really a great show. But it really is a good idea to enter as many shows as you possibly can. The biggest reward is when you actually have people come back and they tell you something about your work. And they'll go, wow, I see you work in class, but I had no idea how good you are as an artist. And that's really the most awesome feedback. Because when you can inspire others to become great artists, then you become greater yourself. So it was really great. So I was proud of all of you that actually put aside your egos and put paintings into the show. I was proud of all of you that showed up for the show and participated. And I was proud of those artists that painted the paintings, that did the homework assignments that I requested, and didn't enter the show, because at least you painted a painting that was outside of your comfort zone. And I'm just proud of all of you in general. So it was really awesome. So thanks.
We are so proud and honored to have you for our teacher. I was like,
Thank you. So it's totally cool. So any questions about the show? None?
The only thing I heard, there was a criticism that when they did the judging, that our bios were right there, so they could see who you were and blah, 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 when they judged. And they weren't supposed to.
Well, I think when they judged the work, all of the paintings were signed. You know, when I do a show, when I critique, like when I did the miniature show here, I don't have time to mull over who's who. And I don't think that...
Well, they don't let you know. I mean,
Well,
when we have our small
We
painting show.
work to cover that up so there isn't the mistaken
Be prejudiced.
prejudice there. So there isn't.
But any judge that's really worth anything, it doesn't really bother. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. Actually, when you walk into a room, and I talked to the judge, but when they walked into the room, they glance at everything and they make a clean sweep. You know, that's why I invite people when I judge to have them watch. And I push all the paintings into a spot that I think are you know, not the caliber of paintings that are there. And then I push all the paintings that I think are in the ribbon category into one area, so that you have 3 different stages and you get rid of those out of the space, and then you spread the paintings out. And you can't sit there and go, well, that's Alice's painting, I need to give her a blue ribbon. I don't think the judges work that way. And both judges were out of town. So they didn't know, and they didn't know me. You know, both of them had no idea who I was. And so I don't think they were prejudiced at all. Stuff all around. But when I talked to the judge, the reason why I think that the judge was really fair is that they said they came down to really basic stuff. Was it drawn well? Was it painted well? Did it have a good composition? Did it have a good light? You know, was the light good in the paintings? I mean, most of your paintings went through to the show because all of you had an element to it that was worthy of it being a show. One thing that, they said it got really down to fundamentals. They said the critical point, and I brought this up to her and she said that's exactly what we were going after, is does the painting feel like it represents the person who painted it?
Well, how would they
Represent the artist, but if they
How
don't
would
know.
they know that?
Yeah.
Hold on. This is a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
Okay. There's a word that Leonardo da Vinci came up with. I mean, it's not really his word, but he uses it as he describes painting the Mona Lisa. It's called sfumato. It's an Italian word. It means actual, like smoke or air. Okay, it's something that literally is elusive. And Leonardo da Vinci used it in his notebooks. It's like grabbing a hold of a smoke coming off of a candle, trying to grab a hold of it, and as you squeeze, the smoke finds another way. So it's the thing you can't quite get. Okay, so what they were looking for is something about the painting that goes beyond the image itself, that illustrates the heart of the artist, the connection to the viewer and the art maker. When we look at the Mona Lisa or when we look at a Rembrandt, we don't care about the model. We don't really know who Mona Lisa was and whether or not she actually looked like that. When we look at a Rembrandt, we don't care who that person is. We don't even care about what the situation is. What we actually feel is a connection to Rembrandt himself. When we look at Van Gogh, his paintings for a lot of people are very disturbing. Okay? But if you start studying Van Gogh, you actually realize that he painted the world how he saw it. And it's probably one of the truest connection that viewers have to the mind of Van Gogh. And if we look at it as an objective work of art, we go, you know, busy, paint, all that stuff. But the thing is, there's something about his work that really relates to who he is. Same with Monet. Monet, you can really feel the connection that he had, every brushstroke, to his heart and his subject matter. When he put a brushstroke down, it was a reaction to what he was looking at. And so what we're looking at are illustrations of a connection that he is seeing. Just like somebody playing the piano. When you watch somebody play the piano or listen to somebody playing the piano, sometimes they're playing the piano. In fact, a lot of times when you hear really good pianists that are technicians, you don't want to listen to them very long. And then you hear Liberace. And when you hear Liberace, you know, hey, that's Liberace. You know, when you're at a dentist office and you go, yeah, that's definitely Liberace. That has to be, that can't be anyone else but Liberace, right? Why? He's playing the same instrument, but it's how he played it, how he hit the notes, how he interpreted it. I saw his show 100 times in Tahoe as growing up. And every time we saw it, he interpreted every piece differently. Okay? He was in the moment. A lot of artists paint subject matter the way it looks like. They don't paint their reaction to the subject matter and put that down. When you play a note, at that moment, you're a different person. Every moment, every second, you're that person right now, over and over and over again. Okay? So every time you put it in, you know, when I tell you you're repeating your brush strokes too much, when I tell you that, you know, if there's 3 brush strokes, that's 2 too many, what I'm actually telling you is that you're blindly painting. You're filling in space. You're putting something on instead of expressing how you feel. You're telling nothing of what you're trying to say, you're just trying to fill in the space. So it's oftentimes like paint by numbers, where you're just really busy trying to just cover canvas. So you want to learn that painting is about expression. And expression is about doing something so that it expresses who you feel like at that moment, right now. And oftentimes when you start painting, you want to make sure that you are completely quiet in your head. You want to make sure that you clear out all of your thoughts and all of your fears, and you want to express yourself right now. Okay? Does that make sense?